Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. I am not Jim, as you can clearly see. I am Anthony Russo, guest hosting this evening while the lovely Jim is out of town. He will be gone for the weekend, so I will be filling in this evening as well as tomorrow morning. But don't you fret, because we have some excellent draft minds to break down more of this linebacker class. The great Sam Teets. Sam, how are you this fine evening?
Well, Clemson kicks off here in 30 minutes, so I'm not doing great. I'm going to watch my Tigers lose miserably another night, so it could be better, but we'll see. Maybe they pull up the win over Louisville.
Yeah, similar vibes here. I got to watch the Jets just have a whale of a time yesterday against the Patriots. We won one quarter, which is more than I thought we'd win, so that's something, I guess.
Yeah, my team's supposed to be bad. My team's supposed to be good, and they're not.
That's true. Yeah, and tanking doesn't really work in college, so it's not as incentivized. But James Foster, always a pleasure. How you doing?
Yeah, I feel out of place because my college team is winning this year. Go Hoosiers.
All right. Yeah, go. Hey, you know what? Your quarterback might be my quarterback next year, so we can only hope that we could have mutual success. And EJ, always good to see you. How you doing?
I'm good. All is well over here. I actually don't have a football team, or just like a draft geek as far as college football goes, but I am getting ready for Sunday night football where my Eagles hopefully take down the Lions.
Yes, well, I can't say I share your excitement for the Eagles, but no one enjoys their team unless they play my team. All right, so we have, as you can see on your screen, we've got 8 linebackers for you to talk about. You guys talked linebackers last week, right? This is now the second week that we're doing linebackers, so I'll just across the board, and obviously there's some guys that may declare and may not, but overall I actually think this is one of the better linebacker groups we've had in a few years at least. So definitely, and a few of these guys are, in my opinion, players to be excited or at least intrigued by. So let's get right into it. First player should be Mr. Suntarine Perkins. Sam, I'll kick it to you first to talk about Suntarine Perkins linebacker, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I've kind of reached a point with these guys where I just don't want to mess around with tweeners anymore. Perkins is obviously a tremendous athlete, and I think what separates him from the next Perkins that we're going to talk about is that he actually has a little bit of power to his power to soften shoulders, be able to rush off the edge, be able to maybe stack and maintain blocks a little bit better than you would see from a guy typically with this size, particularly because of his leverage and his hand placement. But overall, he's not a player who really fits in the mold of any individual role. He doesn't get a ton of snaps at off ball. They line up a lot of times in a two-point stance on the edge, and they kind of bail him out there. He can drop to a QB or curl and cover 3, but he just doesn't really fit in an individual box where I feel comfortable with him playing in a select role. To me, he's more of a sub-package player you take maybe early day 3 range. But he is a really good athlete. He's got good comfortable. But he's just an interesting mix of traits, unfortunately, just packaged into a body type that I'm not really going to buy into highly in the NFL. Kind of a wait and see thing. Like in the NFL, you look at him as maybe a sub-package player who can. I don't see him outside of being a really tremendous overall athlete. I don't see him fitting in a traditional mold where I would feel comfortable taking him with a top 100 pick.
Yeah, you talked about the power that he brings for somebody who is 210 pounds. When they played LSU last year, and obviously Will Campbell was a top 5 draft pick as a left tackle, now doing a solid job with the Patriots. And Suntarine Perkins, like, basically just like move the man that's 100 pounds heavier than him and was able to create pressure in the backfield. Always impressed me. James, what do you make of Suntarine?
Yeah, I'm sort of a like safety linebacker hybrid, or kind of a edge linebacker hybrid, like Suntarine Perkins is. I think there can be a role for them with the right coaching and with the right defensive infrastructure around them, where like Suntarine Perkins isn't asked to come in and be linebacker one. He's already a good group of personnel. So I like him as like a day 3 pick for a good defense. But if you're going into the draft and it's like, all right, we need a starting linebacker, Suntarine Perkins isn't really even on my board for that position. I love the effort. Like, he's the definition of punching above your weight class, for sure. Around like a snowball, and he does get put on the ground occasionally, but definitely holds up better at the point of attack than I expected. For me, I would be kind of on board with him as a higher draft pick if I saw more pass rushing consistency, but to me, it's just like sporadic. That aspect of his game, too much value to him as a prospect for me.
It's a lot of like just speed-based rushes. Really.
Yeah,
He hasn't
yeah,
developed the hand technique at all, which is really disappointing me because he has the traits to be good at it, I think. But like nothing on tape this year in particular of him rushing the passer and being successful in a stretch of games to buy into him being an every down player right now.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's back as pass rusher when that was kind of the one thing that could actually get you excited about him as a player, not ideal to say the least. EJ, head and jump in here.
Yeah, at all. He's outside linebacker in an eye front. That's really what he is. Surprising play strength. Surprisingly good play strength. Not for his size. I watched him versus Georgia, and he had tackles. But I mean, what he is just an undersized edge rusher without a lot of edge rusher moves. He has athleticism, but transitioning to the next level, he's going to be somewhat of a project. He can be the type of guy. If they do put him behind the line as a stack backer, he can work as like a spy or something like that, or if he's just rushing through the A gap on some sim pressure looks or something like that. But as far as a true stack linebacker, that suggests that he will be successful there. But I mean, his work is going to come. Some odd front team is going to draft him. They're going to try to develop him as a rusher off the edge, see how strong he can get, see how big he can get, and possibly he can be designated pass rusher or a backup somewhere. That's usually where I see him going.
Yeah,
It might be like Herbig-ish. I know Herbig's bigger, and I think Herbig had more fans as this pass rush potential coming out in this class. But I think that's probably like the role where he's not really available for 2 years, and outcome.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, and maybe like a Josh Uche type of player he could develop into, or something like that. He's always going to be an undersized rusher, but if he can add some moves to it and add to.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it sucks that like he can't add to his frame. Like, if he had a frame that you could put on, like, at least like 20, 30 pounds and add more just as somebody who could line up on the line of scrimmage more consistently, I kind of maybe get excited about him a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I just don't think the skills traits aren't there to match what he offers in terms of a skill set. Worth noting too, I believe he had shoulder surgery in like January. So the fact that there's even a medical thing now just adds to issues that I think a lot of teams are going to be concerned with going forward. All right, well, over at LSU, James, I'll kick it to you first. What do you make of Harold Perkins?
Yeah, so Harold Perkins is another player that is technically on my board, but probably wouldn't be on my board in the sense that I just wouldn't really be willing to draft him where it appears other people are. Perkins was his freshman season and the elite pass rushing production. I went back and watched some of his pass rushing tape from his freshman year this summer just to like refresh my memory. And I was actually kind of, I remembered it more fondly than it actually was. It was a lot of pursuit stuff. So I think off the bat, that kind of value is diminished for me a little bit. And then to me, he just hasn't put out starting caliber tape at off-ball stack linebacker. He plays a lot of overhang where he gets abused in coverage. I feel Zorb contact at the second level. Tackling has been inconsistent. So to me, he's a late day 3 kind of weapon, very similar to Suntarine Perkins in terms of the role that I'd be looking at him for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think too, like, I think that got a lot of people excited because it showcased what I think he does well, which is pursue the quarterback and running backs and ball carriers. And, you know, he is athletic and he is able to, you know, attack downhill and make plays. The problem is, or if he's required to do anything else off the line of scrimmage, it sort of becomes a worrisome time if you're an LSU fan. EJ, I'll kick it to you now. What do you think
like
of Harold?
the best we see of Harold Perkins is when he is off the line of scrimmage, attacking from the second level, where he's not accounted for in the protection. So that's where we see the athleticism, the speed. That's where we have to touch another human being. Then it kind of changes a little bit where, you know, the play strength deficiencies come in. They use him like hook curl flat coverage. That's pretty much the limit to his coverage. I really don't trust him covering anybody in man coverage at this point right now. Honestly, he probably should just work and develop in that overhang / star / apex position at the next level and try to work that out there, because that's where his strength deficiencies try to develop the coverage instincts. I don't basically just dropping into that in that hook curl flat zone and then just functioning as add in the pressure package, or maybe you know, we live in a sim pressure world now where you line all your guys up on the line of scrimmage and the quarterback don't know who's coming and who's not. He'll be successful in that role. So he's going to take, for one, he's going to take a very creative defensive coordinator to work with. As far as the true stack linebacker, I mean, it's 2 years worth of film, and we don't really see those natural instincts that, like, in my opinion, like, either those linebacker instincts, either you have them or you don't. That processing ability, that vision to cut through all the traffic pretty quickly, and I don't think that's very developed where he's at. So it's going to take a creative defensive coordinator to put him to good use. But right now, it's, you know, athletic.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk about multiple linebackers going forward here that I think have natural feel for both attacking in the run game and also just naturally operating in coverage. Sam, I'll let you go ahead and close out for Harold
not
here.
much more to add. He can't really fit the run in the box at all. He just doesn't, like EJ had said, doesn't have the instincts, doesn't have the size to compete in the box. Much better player going forward than he is backward. You just really can't. I just don't see a significant role for him in the NFL besides playing special teams. He's going to be, in my opinion, a 6th-round caliber player who might get taken around higher because he's going to testable, but I'm not sure I have the other Perkins, maybe a round earlier than I would have Harold. And Harold is like a late day 3. Just pick an athlete and see what you can find out and see if you can figure out a role for him in your defense.
Yeah, I think too. I'll close with this. A lot of people probably saw that Ty Simpson throw that he made this past week when Alabama played at LSU on that crossing route to Jeremy Bernard. A big reason why that play happened was because Harold Perkins bit on the play fake, and then subsequently Jeremy Bernard was able to basically sneak past him. And you watch as Harold Perkins does a complete 180 to Jeremy Bernard as he just blows past him, and Ty Simpson obviously makes a very impressive throw. But it's just reps like that you'll see where his coverage is not good, and he is just too susceptible to play acting those natural instincts. All right, who do we have here? All right. Yeah, we're switching it up now. It's a very different player from Harold Perkins. Red Murdock from the great University of Buffalo. EJ, I'll come to you first. What do you got on Red Murdock?
Yeah, he's he has the instincts. My only worry about Red is level of competition and play a lot for him. But I like the aggressiveness that he plays with. I like the play speed that he has as far as when the ball is snapped, he's locating the football, he's reading his keys. They use him mugging up the A-gaps a little bit, and they use him as a rusher up the A-gap. I like the quickness that he has there. But he's a guy that I just want to see more and he shows that he can compete with better talent. So I think he's a guy with some upside, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, and Sam, obviously, you can just give your analysis in general, but I think people are naturally going to make comparisons to Sean Dolak from last year, just purely because they are both Buffalo linebackers that I think sold. So, yeah, obviously, just you can give your thoughts on Red in general, but also just kind of where I think you stack him up with Dolak is also an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I like Dolak
as well.
a lot more. I wasn't the biggest fan of Murdock on tape. I think he's a natural run fitter. He's got some pop in his hands when he goes into contact. He's a quick trigger player, a high motor as well. He can deliver some heavy hits. So I like that part. But looking at him overall, I think he's definitely lighter than what he's listed at. I think the arm length may be a bit concerning as well. He's lean in his lower half. You see once an offensive line once a real offensive lineman gets into his frame a little bit, he has trouble kind of getting off that block. I think in coverage, I have question marks. I don't think he has the burst and speed to consistently beat running backs to the corner at times. I think again, like you're dealing with probably limited options here in coverage. I don't see the twitch and agility to really evade blocks at a high level. He can take on blocks at a quality level, but he doesn't really evade blocks at the level of some more complete linebackers we'll talk about later on in today's show. So I think there's a little bit more concern for me from a stack and shed standpoint, as well as like a power standpoint that maybe EJ has. But I'm still looking at the guys who can come in and contend for a starting position.
Yeah, and just before I come to you, James, I will say, like, that forced fumbles here, 16 total in his collegiate career so far. So if you are a fan of forcing fumbles, that peanut punch mentality, you probably will like Red Murdock at least a little bit. But James, go ahead and give your thoughts on Red.
Muted. So maybe a
You're
little bit
muted.
higher on Red than the rest of y'all, especially compared to Sean Dolek, who I had a UDFA grade on. I have an early day 3 grade on Red Murdock. I think that he'll get drafted ahead of Sean Dolek, which just means he'll get drafted, because I think NFL front offices are going to, like they did with Sean Dolek, they're going to turn on the best competition first. And if you turn on Sean Dolek's performance against Missouri last year, it's extremely concerning with his ability to take on blocks. And when you watch Red Murdock against Minnesota, I thought he had a really solid performance. So it gets off his tape. And yeah, I've got him like right outside of my top 100. I think 116 maybe. I think that, the size, the take on ability I like. The coverage rule is limited, so I definitely agree on that. I felt better about his speed. I did see him lose the corner one time, but I felt like overall the pursuit speed was pretty good, especially for 240 pounds. But yeah, based on the eye test, I think the length could be marginal probably. So day 3 conversation regardless. I like him a little bit earlier on day 3 just because I think the instincts are so good.
Yeah, I do think, at least of the 3 we've talked about so far, I think Murdock checks more boxes just from an NFL profile standpoint. I mean, obviously, when it comes to weight and frame, certainly checks that. But I think too, just his ability to be a more effective run defender than either Perkins. I think that lends itself more to just being drafted and probably like day 3 player. But I think he does at least have a higher line than probably the other 2 that we've talked about so far.
If he interviews at all like the way he plays, coaches are gonna love him. He's got that kind of play style where there's gonna be a lot of defensive coaches who are gonna be interested in him. Maybe he starts his career more of a 2-down type role, I think, but we'll have to see what the coverage is. Again, he's just not tasked to do a lot of it right now, so I'm always hesitant with linebackers to ask them to drop them into the NFL and expect you to be good in coverage. But like you mentioned, like the natural ability to play between the tackles and fit the run and process quickly, that's all there for him. So it's a decent baseline to work off.
I'll ask you quickly, because this is also just kind of what I was thinking about Sam. I'm kind of imagining he's like in that 4-3 Sam kind of role, that feels like his best bet, where he can be, just close to the line of scrimmage, be able to defend the run, not so reliant on him in coverage. Would you kind of see it that way as well?
A little bit, but I do want to have him have like some depth to work off of, because he is so good. He's got a good amount of times where he's taking proper angles, and I think he has the ability to kind of observe the play, process quickly. I don't want him taking on contact too early in the play, because I think that's where he can get bottled up at times. I want to see him really be able to showcase what he can do coming downhill. So I think maybe not consistently, so he can move around and play multiple roles. But I think that's probably like a decent starting off point for his career. But I think you want to really build off of it and not there.
Yeah, I would say like the length and the lack of strength.
All right.
The length and lack of strength would be an issue for him as like an on-ball fan.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's go to Cam Robinson out of the great Virginia University. I've totally lost track of who I started with, so I'm just going to go to Sam.
So I wasn't
go ahead,
a
Sam.
big fan of Cam Robinson. I'd be stunned if he's 234, by the way. I don't think that's accurate. But he is, I think, like a late day 3 weeks at linebacker. I don't see him having the size and mass to play a traditional role. I think he's got very short arms as well, which is concerning to me. he's now a player I trust very much in coverage. I know he had a really good interception this year. I believe it was in the Cal. I think it was against Cal maybe, but for most times he does not showcase the ability to really process and make quick plays in coverage. He's covering a lot of grass. He's not really sticking to routes and man coverage. He's not really transitioning the way you want to have him zone. He gets caught flat-footed and stacked a lot of times. He kind of just grabs and twists guys to get back in the route. I don't see him having the agility and suddenness to really contribute in the passing game either. Play strength is a concern for me, both taking on blocks and trying to finish tackles. You see him fall off tackles a little bit too often or kind of get dragged for extra yards. I think he's got good enough speed, like quality speed, but it's not elite enough to make up for some of the lack of other traits he has right now. He's a player who I think tends to fire north-south too quickly and kind of runs himself out of plays. He's got the speed and the range to be working more east to west. Big 10 runs, he's trying to fly down into a human missile sometimes when he has that straight line shot at the ball. He does come to balance as a tackler to try and make consistent tackles. I think he's a fairly explosive athlete, but overall I don't see the play strength, the natural instinct in coverage. I just don't see a complete player who I would want to put on the field. I see a special teamer. I don't see a guy who I'd feel comfortable with playing in a regular role.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think one of the things, because I feel like just from what I'm hearing, I might be a little higher on him than you are. And I don't even really dispute much of what you said. Like, I do think the processing is slow. I think you're right. I don't think he's 234 either. He's probably in like the mid 220s if I had to guess. But I do like the fact that, so like one of the big things for me just in general is tackling and consistency with tackling. And last season had a 22.8% missed tackle rate, and this year that number's down to 5%, which for me, for a guy who probably is again like in the 220-ish range, the fact that he is able to consistently wrap up players and not have as high a missed tackle rate as you might expect, and as some of the guys on this list do have, that to me is something that I value.
I would caution you a little bit, because that with PFF and those track numbers, sometimes they're flat out wrong. Because frankly, I think they don't track missed tackles very consistently at times. But also, when you see a massive jump like that, a lot of times it's not consistent. So it's going to ultimately kind of even back out, flip the other way the next year sometimes. When you see guys lower missed tackle rates, usually it's across like a 3-year span. You go from like 21 to 12 to 8 or something like that. When you see someone going from like 20 to 5, usually that's not going to translate across a multi-year process.
That's fair. James, I'll let you jump in here. What do you have you watched? You didn't watch them, right? All right. Well, you're gonna have to watch him and tell us,
because I heard his opinion first.
All right, that's valid. EJ, I'll bring it to you then. What do you think of Cam?
Yeah, much of the same. I mean, he's a decent mover in space, but it's just my issue with him is he doesn't arrive with any force. He doesn't deconstruct blocks consistently. There's a gap in his play strength where he's going to get pressure, which is what we look for you linebackers to have a little bit of pass rush upside now, but he doesn't have much of that. Whenever they play him on the line, it's strictly as an edge setter, and that's just him throwing his shoulder into a guy. I watched him versus Florida State, and due to his movement ability, I don't mind him dropping into like that middle hook defender in his zone coverage. But as far as covering any type of man coverage, I have no interest in him doing that. He's a guy. He's a day 3 to UDFA type of guy. He can contribute on special teams. He does have a little bit of athletic ability, but as far as I think he's lacking some skills as far as a linebacker. He's going to have to get stronger first and foremost. Yeah,
I think that's all fair. If you're watching this and you're a fan of random fun facts about players, Cam Robinson became the only FBS player in the last 20 years with a blocked punt, an interception return for a touchdown, and a fumble recovery in the same season. So if you value players based on random metrics like that, Cam Robinson is your guy. All right. Who do we have next here? Josiah Trotter. All right. I'm not going to spoil it, and I'm not going to assume, but I feel like we're going to be the highest on Josiah Trotter than we've been for anybody else.
James
Anybody can prove me wrong.
James,
James, this is all you.
Yeah, so
Go right ahead, James.
Josiah Trotter kind of fits the mold of a lot of the running backs in this class. It's a very run stopper heavy class, and that is Josiah Trotter to a T. So listed at 6'2", 237 pounds. He's an underclassman. Apparently is leaning towards declaring. I think good, not great top speed. See him lose the corner occasionally, but I think overall the pursuit speed's really good. The dynamite's attached to his wrists, and the physicality that he plays and attacks blocks with. I mean, even when he's not really at the point of attack involved in the play, if there's an opposing player next to him, he's just going to punch the shit out of him for the hell of it. So I love the punch. And then he's also, I think, even better at avoiding blocks, maneuvering tight quarters, really flexible to get around the edge of a block. Dependable tackler, 7.4% career missed tackle rate. Also really good stopping power as a tackler, and he's got grip strength to where he has laser sharp play diagnosis for an underclassman, and that's what makes him such a dominant run defender. When we get into coverage, there are not a whole lot of positives from my takeaways. I think the zone coverage IQ is a major work in progress. Has had a consistent issue that I noticed 3 times against mesh. He's in the middle hook. He'll just follow that like he's in man coverage, completely vacate the middle of the field, and teams just picked on him with that sit route. He takes himself out of position against play action, RPOs. I think that he's consistently late to pick up his coverage assignments to the flat, especially when they're coming from across the formation. And then, despite the speed, I think being pretty good in run defense, when he has to move backwards and keep up with a running back on a wheel route, it felt like he was a step behind there consistently. So I want to see some development in coverage. If he comes back to school and becomes a complete player, I think he's got
good stuff. I will say, just to add some context, he's a redshirt sophomore, and I don't have the numbers, but I imagine we don't see many redshirt sophomore linebackers declaring for the draft much. This is also EJ, very familiar, son of Jeremiah Trotter, great Eagles linebacker, brother of Jeremiah Jr., who's also on the Eagles, was on their Super Bowl winning team last season. So with that, EJ, I'll send it to you now. What do you got on Josiah Trotter?
Yeah, so Trot, their dad for him. Like, okay, let's see what your boys got, Trotter. So his Trotter raised his sons to be linebackers. Like in high school, he wouldn't let them play any other positions because he wanted his son to develop the linebacker instincts, and it worked because Jeremiah Trotter Jr. he has it. Josiah Trotter, he has it. It's just that Josiah Trotter is the better athlete of the two. Legit 6'2", 237. What he did, I watched him versus Texas A&M, and I like the way that he tries to play mind games with the quarterback. He's always moving pre-snap, trying to cause confusion, and he still can get back to his spot and handle his assignment. One thing I like the hand placement. You can tell he's been trained to play the linebacker position, because when he shoots his hands, either if he's just trying to get a guy off of him or if he's just trying to deconstruct the block, he shoots his hands with 4 linemen his chest. You control the chest, you control a man. He just tosses guys aside. He had us. I mean, and coverage is going to be, his weakness, but it's something that you can work around. You can scheme around that. He was in the middle hook against a Texas A&M on a 3rd and 6, and he diagnosed a nice little sit route, and he got in for the PBU. So there's going to be development where he's going to have to see it a little bit quicker. I like the athleticism. I think he's got better play speed than time speed. Like you really see, he does have acceleration in pursuit, or if he's triggering downhill, that's where you see a little bit of explosiveness, a little bit of speed there. As far as his instincts, it was a goal line situation against Texas A&M. All he did was just read his keys. He read his keys, and he saw the pulling offensive lineman. He didn't overplay it. He followed the offensive lineman, but he didn't overplay it. And on the goal line, excellent play. A good example of the instincts that he has. I think he's an aggressive player. I think he has the right type of demeanor to play the linebacker position. He really wants to get after it. He's a competitive player. But yeah, I think he's got a ton of upside. When as a rusher, they didn't use him primarily as a pass rusher. They used him on some second level stunts where he would come in from the second level as a crasher and allow the defense to in the loop around him and get the pressure. Exactly, as a rusher off the edge, you can still use him in the pressure package. So yeah, he's a player I like. He's a guy that I've had my eye on for a while now. It's just good watching him develop into what he is now. So if he were to declare, he'd probably be a day 2 guy at best, early day 3 at worst.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'll sort of just echo it by saying, like, I think when you see the great reps that he has with his hands being able to knock back, I certainly think he has. But it's so much technique too, and like you said, like it looks like someone that is the son of a great NFL linebacker, understanding positioning of the hands just as much as having just the natural power and strength to be able to knock people backwards. Sam, go ahead and jump in here.
Blake Miller for a sack. So if I'm shaking my head, that's why. So
my guy,
it's a loss for me in multiple levels. No. Trotter. I'm sorry. I'm dialing back in now. Trotter. Yeah, he's gonna be a top 50 player, I believe, for me as well. We'll have to restack everything, but I'm expecting him to be in that range. Just watching him, the list of positives is maybe 3 times longer than the list of negatives right now. So I think it's gonna work out. Really good lateral agility and quickness. He's got a loose lower half. James I think mentioned this, but he makes some tackles from some really weird and tight angles too, like in the box. He just makes some really unique plays that you don't see from a lot of guys in this class, including some of the guys we might have ranked higher than him overall. But you brought like the pop and play strength in the hands. That's tremendous as well. He is powerful, but he's also like slippery. So his ability to avoid and evade blocks is out there. I don't really have much else to add because we've covered him pretty thoroughly. I would like to see some more ball production, I think, in terms of both forced fumbles, getting his hands on the ball in coverage, and that kind of stuff. But it's really fringe profile stuff. I think he's not maybe not an elite athlete, but he's got some really nice short area acceleration. I think he's a good enough athlete where he can be a contributor and be a positive for you in coverage. I think there's something really well. Still a very inconsistent player in that area who's clearly inexperienced and needs to build out there. But I'm projecting forward. I'm very hopeful what this player will be, and he's one of the few guys in this linebacker class I'm willing to maybe take a little bit higher and project going forward versus taking him based on what he is right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think the ball production and just consistency and coverage is the thing that he needs to work on. I think too, people should kind of keep in mind, like, I think we're all kind of in agreement, like sort of the range we're talking about for Josiah, and like in a lot of linebacker classes, that's probably, linebacker 1 or 2. This class, there's plenty of other, and I don't know where he stacks up on everybody's linebacker board here, but like there's several linebackers that will probably still go before him. But he's so good that he warrants a top 50, 75 pick if we continue to see that growth and development for the rest of the season. And as we established too, he's only a redshirt sophomore, so there's plenty of time for him to continue that development track. All right, we got or Kansas State, I should say. EJ, I'll start with you. What do you got on Austin Romaine?
First, I think we all seen that clip against Texas Tech where he got the interception. That's pure instincts right there. He felt the offensive lineman release, and he just dropped back, hit the rush. He was coming as one of the rushers in the pressure package. That was a sim pressure there, and he was coming for the quarterback, but he felt that the screen coming, so he just stopped his rush, dropped back, and got the interception. That in your middle linebacker. What I got from him is no standout physical traits. He's one of those guys that's not going to do well at the Underwear Olympics, but will probably do better once the pads come on. I think he was a little bit slow laterally as far as scraping over the top, but I think he's just a pure in that Jack Campbell mode where he's not the most athletic guy out there, but he's the smartest guy out there. You can routinely see him directing traffic, telling guys where to go. I don't think he's going to have the versatility to be like a rusher or anything like that off the edge, but I think he's just pure stack linebacker, and that's fine. And he has a good play strength. I'll say he has good core strength. When guys try to angle block him, he's still holding off guys with one hand and still able to go make the strength. I think he's just a pure tackle to tackle linebacker. He'll probably, athletic traits will probably get him drafted on day 3, but I can see him making his way up into a starting job or into a very pivotal role on the defense.
Go ahead, Sam, and I will say just before I send it over to you, I think the glaring thing for me is just the consistency with tackling. The fact he had eight missed tackles against Kansas. 19 on the season. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. Go ahead, Sam. See if you can make me feel a little better about him.
Clemson just ran a direct snap to a running back for a tackle for loss in the red zone, and then had to call timeouts so they couldn't get the play in. I am just on cloud 9 right now. I need 2 new coordinators, and Clemson very fast. On him then, which is a 4th round grade. He kind of hit the nail on the head where this guy's just maybe not an NFL caliber athlete. It's going to be interesting to see where the testing comes in, what percentile he's at. I do think he's got good general thickness to his frame. I think he's got enough size and length to really fill gaps entirely. I think he's been more patient as a run for this year than he was in past years. He really can be this fearless downhill Freeman torpedo at times. He's quick enough where he can shoot gaps or tackles for loss. I do think there's a inconsistency to how much power he arrives with at times, where he can sometimes stack and work off blocks really quickly, splash him out of plays a bit. So he's a little inconsistent in terms of the take-on power. He does have a fair number of ways he can get off blocks. He's got a club swim. He's got 2-hand swipes. He's got a hump move. He can work off blocks in a variety of ways or spin back into the play. But I do think there's some concerns about the range and coverage. I think there's concerns about his ability to finish tackles. He overrun plays a lot. I think there's maybe some agility concerns as far as can he stop and mirror playmakers in space. And then, of course, they talk about the rim fits and the consistency and football IQ got better from last year to this year. There's just a lot around the edges that I think is going to drop him down the board. And if he ends up being a 5th-round pick, that wouldn't surprise me. But I think you're looking for a bit kind of a throwback player a little bit. You can get him in the 4th round and maybe play him like an early down role. and hope that you can maybe get him a little bit into a larger role going forward. He strikes me as the kind of player who you take for 4 years, you kind of get what you can out of him, and then he's on the free agent market afterwards. So I don't think this is a second contract player, but I think it's a quality player to have in your room in case of injury and add some depth.
Yeah, I think too, James, as I come to you, I don't know, because he's a junior, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't even know, like, what, I mean, I guess you could always improve if you're a day 3 player. You can stay back and work on things, but I don't back. But you can go ahead and give your thoughts on if he should even declare and just in general what you thought of him.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Austin Romaine over the last couple of years. Started working backwards on his tape. Watched Texas Tech, thought it was very good. Watched Kansas, and I saw that 8 missed tackle performance. And after I finished that, I was like, yeah, he's probably going back to school. So I didn't watch any of his other tapes. I think that if he fixes the tackling, like he's got a role as an early down thumper. I think the top gear is NFL caliber, but the acceleration from a standstill, like if he's got to beat a runner to the pylon, just isn't there. And I agree with the lateral scrape being slow. Coverage range is a big question because he isn't really asked to drop very deep. So yeah, to me his ceiling is like mid day 3, but he would be a go back to school guy for me right now.
All right, cool. Good stuff on him. Let's go now to Isaiah Glasker at BYU. Sam, I'll come to you first. What have you got on Isaiah Glasker? I'm trying to keep your attention off of Clemson. It seems like that might be what you need right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, so with Glasker, I came in a little hopeful that he could develop based on where he was last year. I haven't really seen that, I don't think. He's got prototypical size, I would say, for linebacker, but he's got good strength as well to quickly separate and redirect off blocks. He's got impressive closing bursts as a blitzer with a swim move. He's got a chop. Really, I kind of wish I saw him more on the edge a little bit because it feels like there are reps where you see him, he's got tackle beat, he's got to beat, and he can't corner. He just can't find a way to finish the top of the pass rush, and it drives me crazy because you have moments where you think, okay, it's going to bend to finish the play. I like him more rushing the pass off the edge than I do kind of in the stacked role, to be honest with you. I think there's some concerns of him in coverage, like limited range, kind of drifting in and out of the proper zones. He runs himself out of too many plays when he's got too much depth on himself. Limited top speed as well. I think he's got better closing burst than he does overall top speed. I think there's just a lack of instincts there, especially in coverage, and very inconsistent gap integrity. I think change of direction for him can be pretty labored as well. So I'm looking at him playing more on the line of scrimmage than playing off the ball in a stack position. There is a decent baseline for him as far as stacking and avoiding blocks in both areas. But I think that if you're going to draft this player to play on an off ball, you're probably a year or 2 away from being in a position where you feel comfortable with him playing more than just an early down role.
Yeah, I will say too, again, just for more context, like this is somebody who, at least for some people, was like getting like Butkus Award hype, and had I think a good season last year, and people were really excited about him as somebody that could potentially be like a top 50 sort of linebacker, and I just personally don't think we've seen that kind of production this year. But James, go ahead and give your thoughts on Isaiah.
Yeah, I was disappointed in what I saw from Glasker's tape this year because he was kind of one of my guys over the summer. I thought his 2024 tape was accessibility, which is a critical factor for me with off-ball linebackers. And like you said, Sam, I feel like sometimes, or not sometimes, very frequently as a pass rusher, he's able to beat the hands, and then if you like pause the play at the top of the set, it looks like he's about to get a win, and then the tackle's able to recover the corner. And I always liked the pass rushing upside, like as a blitzer, if he was able to put together the rest of his off ball skill set. I don't know that I love him as just like I'm drafting this guy to be an edge. So I'm not actually sure if he has any eligibility left, but he would be another guy I'd recommend go back to school if possible.
Jack Kelly, other linebacker, and
go
was
ahead.
more consistent this year. Like when I put the tape on, Kelly to me,
Yeah.
like not in a day two kind of way, but I think Kelly's been a bit more consistent of a player if you're looking to project the guy to the next level immediately.
Yeah, I agree about Kelly, and I think I have Glasker as a redshirt junior, so should have another year. I do think coming back, I think him more than Romaine, like another year in school could like really help his stock if he's able to sort of put it together in the way that I think we kind of thought he could potentially this season. EJ, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, if he was to go back, I would say he should develop his play strength a little bit more. He looks like he has a frame to add more weight to his upper body. From what I watched him against Texas Tech, and I watched him against Iowa State. And they alternate him between a stack linebacker and a Sam linebacker and some 4-3 under fronts. He looks like he got good length, so he can shed blocks. He can get behind offensive tackles. So he looks like he has some length to do that. I want to see him play with a little bit more violence. I want some violence out of my linebackers. I think he needs to turn that up a notch. That would go a long way into him beating the blocks and him being more effective as a linebacker. As far as I just like. I want to see more aggressiveness. I want to see a little bit toughness as a linebacker from him. It was a rep on 3rd and 1 against Texas Tech. They run a split flow inside zone, and he slips the block. The offensive tech tries to kick him out, but he slips that block. He's high, and he misses the tackle. I mean, he just slips right off of the guy. I don't want to see that from my linebacker when you got a clean shot at a guy. Another instance against Iowa State. It's in the first quarter. They are running. What did I put out here? Yeah, they're running outside zone against Iowa State, and again comes in too high, and a running back puts an arm in his chest and puts him on his ass. I don't want that from my 6'5", 240 pound linebacker, and a 5'10", 200 pound running back is putting you on your ass. I don't want that. So I just want to see more play strength. As far as coverage, he covers a lot of ground because he's tall. He's got long legs. Not necessarily a speed guy, but he covers a lot of ground. I think his hips are a little bit stiff. As far as mobility and flexibility when it's time to turn and run. But I think, if he came out this year, he's a bit of a project. You look at nothing more as to say, get stronger, pretty much hone in on your position, whether you want to be on the line of scrimmage or you want to be on the second level. I would prefer him. I think he would probably do better like as an on-ball Sam and just moonlight a little bit as a stack linebacker. But either way, he's probably right now. He's probably a day 3 pick for me.
Yeah, I think sort of the way I'll kind of just sum it up here. I think the idea of Isaiah Glasker is better than what you actually see from Isaiah Glasker like in practice. Yeah, like 6'5", 240. I don't have the exact. Everything's there from a measurable standpoint. And the flashes of what we see as a pass rusher and what he could be, it's just not all there. So yeah, I think of everyone that we're going to talk about for this evening. I think he stands to gain the most potentially if he can just kind of put it all together if he comes back to school. All right, I think we have one more, Aiden Fisher from the Indiana Hoosiers. So who better to start with than James Foster? James, go ahead.
Yeah, so Aiden Fisher, I feel like, is an extremely above average prospect in just so many areas. He great instincts, limited measurables, type of linebacker prospect that could slip in the draft, but carve out a longer career than you would expect. The biggest issue that I have with Aiden Fisher is the take on ability, and that's going to limit his grade. When a blocker latches onto him, he just doesn't have the contact balance to stay in the play. So that does limit him, but to me, I think the coverage instincts, especially against screens and underneath stuff, is outstanding. When he can run the pole, he's got the range to run the pole. When he gets into his zone drops, he's looking to take away routes as well. So, yeah, he's 117 for me on my board.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think Aiden Fisher has sort of been like the epitome of guys that came over from James Madison when Kurt Signetti got the job at Indiana, and has sort of been one of the instrumental, I think, pieces, particularly obviously on the defense, but like one of the guys that's really helped bring that program to life in the past 2 seasons. EJ, go ahead and give your thoughts on Aiden Fisher.
In coverage, like even when you can see him as a spy on a quarterback, and you can see him, he relates to what the quarterback's doing with pretty quickly. I think when you see when he's kept clean by his defensive line, he can go blow a play up because he can see it. His key diagnosis is there. My only issue with him is pretty much not the highest end physical traits. So that's another guy that's probably not going to do the play strength. I want to see him get a little bit stronger. You got to arrive with force when you're coming from the linebacker position. I want to see him tackling with force, deconstructing blocks with force. He's just got to get a little bit stronger. But this is a guy that he can work the middle of your defense. He can be your green dot, if you will. Like he's a guy that can relay the plays and get guys lined up in a timely fashion. He has that type of instinct stronger. And you got to put him in a defense that's going to allow him to just use his instincts and his smarts, and not have to have him fighting off blockers all the time. He's a guy that needs to be kept clean in order to be effective. If he's stuck on an offensive lineman all the time, he's not really going to be a playable type of linebacker. But if he's kept clean, he's able to diagnose and read and react. Then that's when he can go make plays for you. So it depends. He's gonna have a specified role. He's gonna have to be in the right type of defense. But first and foremost, getting to the league, he's just gonna have.
Yeah, I'll throw it to you, Sam. But I will say, I think kind of the play, I think that sort of summarizes what I think both of James and EJ have been talking about. Is I think it's the first play against Penn State where they basically run a jet sweep. Yep. I forget who gets the handoff, but the receiver comes in motion, gets the handoff, and Aiden Fisher sees it. He steps up to the line of scrimmage. As soon as the ball snaps, he attacks, and then Trey Pena, who's 185 pounds soaking wet, basically just like stands him up and takes him out of the play when he had like a clear shot at getting to the ball carrier, and knew who he was getting the ball, was ready to get there. He just didn't because he got stopped by Trey Pena of all people. So again, like the mind is there, but the physicality isn't. But so yeah, Sam, go ahead and give your thoughts on Aiden.
Clemson receiver TJ Moore is now on the ground writhing in pain.
Okay.
This is going to be a long night. No, Fisher certainly has some really redeeming traits for him. I know he doesn't have maybe the physical ability we always look for, but I noticed like really nice suddenness for him immediately at the snap, like really nice quickness, good mid-play acceleration. I think there's some lateral agility and foot speed for him that doesn't get enough attention. When I turn on his tape, I was expecting to see more of like just a 2-down type player. and maybe that's what he ends up becoming in the NFL. But I think he does have not like total range, but the ability to operate and kind of win in a phone booth at times that I was expecting from him. A very rapid trigger, aggressive attacking downhill. I do think he gains good depth in zone coverage when you need him to, and he's very quick to limit yak. He's very good at closing at the top of the stem, making the immediate tackle, not letting guys get behind him for extra yardage. Good job driving and striking through the running back's chest as well, so he's aggressive. His quickness allows him to make some really nice adjustments in coverage at times. Again, maybe not over the like a long speed type player, but being able to win and operate within a set area, I think he has that ability. And he's got some natural instincts, again, fitting the run. I do think he sometimes runs himself out of too many plays. There's times where the angle is maybe too steep, and he just puts himself in a position where he's going to have to try to recover, and he's not always able to do that. The automatic really does limit his ability to deconstruct blocks at times. And I do think there's a lot of concern you can have when you put him in a man coverage situation. Open up his hips, he kind of allows guys to have free go at the top of the stem. So there's some stuff he needs to modify there, but like you guys brought up, I could see this kind of player filling in early in his career, maybe not as a star, but as a guy who kind of rotates and sees playing time, especially in the case of injuries, which I think there have been more injuries at linebacker and more depth issues at linebacker in the NFL in recent years. And I think that's a pathway for guys like Fisher, Romaine, Murdock to see playing time pretty early in their careers.
Definitely. All right, we've just passed the hour point, and somehow I kept this on the rails. I don't believe it, but here we are. All right, unless anybody has any parting thoughts, we can sort of just share where everybody can be found. So, Sam, go ahead. Give out all your information and your Substack and all that good stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at Sam_Pete's33, where I'm constantly posting tweets, clips, and updates on my big board and rankings, as well as draft reports. And you can find all my content for free on Substack at Sports Talk with Sam Teets. All I need is your email to subscribe, get it sent to your inbox every day, and again, no cost at all. So that's where you find me right now. I also write for Chiefs Wire covering the draft. I'll hopefully be down Mobile working for them this year. And
I will hopefully see you there. James, give us all your great work that you
Twitter
do.
Twitter at NoFlagsFilm if you want to see my draft guide. It's linked in the description. And then writing for Wide Left and YouTube videos on YouTube at James Foster.
Cool, great stuff. And EJ.
Yeah, you can catch me pretty much on Twitter, doing clips and film and NFL draft breakdowns. At the end of the draft season, you can catch me doing the Rogue Analytics draft guide. I'll be doing defensive backs. Also, hopefully you'll see me in Mobile. Just look for the bald-headed black guy and with the beard. And basically, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I hope to see all of you in Mobile if you're all planning on being there. And I very much advocate for these three guys here. Their draft work is great. Definitely worth checking out. Mine is decent too. You can find me on X at Anthony_Russo97. And I've got a Substack that you can find on my profile. I just released my top 10 rankings at each position. So you can find me there. You can find me on the Mrs. Irrelevant podcast every Friday night and Saturday morning. As I said at the top, I'll be filling in as host for Jim for the podcast we have come up at 9:15. Offensive line. 9:15 we'll be doing corners. So definitely tune into that. And that, I think, will just about do it. So thank you very much for watching or listening, however you take this content. And we will see you on another podcast soon.